I'm going to quickly show you how Imhex is used to edit EFLs. This is the files I worked on for Lightning Brand. Right now I have the base file that I took, which is this one, and then the one that I've modified, which is this one. So in the base file you can see that the effect colors are located above the character guide right here. And as you can see that this one is white, and then it has 5C as its brightness. You can ignore this RGA8 and RG565 color, because it'll only give you the proper color if you have all four of the proper bytes selected. And if you select all of them, it will still do the same thing, but they should always be repeating. However, sometimes color codes can be located below as well. As you can see here, it has a secondary color code of FFF18. This usually means that the outer of the move is going to be brighter than the inside of the move. For example, if you notice on Lightning Brand, there is effects that are different, and that's mainly the reason why. If you notice that here, I have changed the move to be a Thor effect, but the colors are completely different. So you can see I moved it to a light blue effect by changing the color code here. So normally when people do this, they if they use something different, like a hex edit program, it doesn't show them the colors. But if you click this little drop down here, you'll see an option to change from hexadecimal to RGBA8 color, and now it will show you the color of the ability right above it. So as you can see, FFFF5C is a nice light white, while the modified version is a nice light blue. There's also an option to invert the colors here to show you what the invert of the color is. Some characters very rarely, I've found out, have inverted colors. For example, like Dormammu. So if there's ever a color that you can't seem to find and you've exhausted all options, it might just be an inverted color. The best way, of course, is through testing. And then you can, of course, see that, if we go back here, that this one here, since it's very light, it can be hard to see with RGB coloring, but it does still exist. Even here, it still exists. So it's not always good to just assume. So I like to go through once with this and then go through again with hexadecimal. Either you do 8 or 16, whichever one you prefer. Lastly, the last thing I want to show you is that there's a view here. These views are going to bring up. Data Inspector is this column on the right here. Hex Editor is this view. So if you're ever wondering where this view is, it's under Hex Editor. Pattern data is for a recognitional pattern. I have created a test pattern that can help you, and I'll show you what that looks like at the end. The only other thing I wanted to show you real quick, this view is the diffing option. So if you ever wanted to compare two files to see what has been changed, you can add both of the ones that you have open, and then I'll show you what you have modified between them. So I can see that, oh, this is different, and this is different. So the reason the E is the same, that's why it's separated. But this is very useful for comparing files that you've changed and need to revert, or for comparing files that you haven't modified yet. So the other thing I want to show is, if you go to Pattern Editor, I have a pattern that I have created before. And what this pattern is, I'm going to import it right here. This pattern helps you identify common file structures that are in Marvel. I've created it myself, so it might not be perfect. But as you can see, it highlights here. Anything highlighted in red is stuff you should never modify, because these are files that usually control some form of variation. Usually controls how the move is called. You'll sometimes see that A40 is here and 83F is here, and they'll be very interchangeable. But generally, you don't want to touch these. But looking at these green here, this can help you easily identify where you should change files and stuff like that. I've applied that in the effect channel, so you can probably grab it from there still. And yeah, that's basically a really rough overview.